Hello, and thank you for tuning into a very special Political Soup. Tonight's kind of special because tonight is, well, just me hosting, and of course, I'm interviewing someone. I'm interviewing probably one of the most passionate libertarians that I think I know. You know, it's just, she's a joy to watch and to listen to, and I encourage you to do that, by the way. So anyway, I'm joined by Amanda BillyRock, who, by the way, is in charge of AmandaBillyRock.com. So welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Paul.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am just doing great. So anyway, let's get into the questions here. I'm always kind of interested in the backstory behind you know, liberty-minded people, and I guess my question is, how did you come to liberty? I mean, it's pretty well documented that you were kind of a fan of Dr. Ron Paul, and you know, that's fairly documented. But I mean, how did what kind of brought you to liberty?
Well, before I was able to get sort of resources and reading materials and videos from following the Ron Paul campaign, I guess the journey really started in the library down in Los Angeles. It was two and a half years ago, and it was just, I was wondering why everyone was always talking about the economy, like what that even meant, how it could go bad. It all seemed like such a blur to me. And so I just went to the library and I just started reading some books just to see if I could find anything that said, you know, economies go bad because of this. And I stumbled on some libertarian literature, and then that's how it all happened.
That's awesome. Now, just out of curiosity, what who did you stumble across?
It was called Radicals for Capitalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, growing up, what were your parents, or you know, just generally your family? Where did they kind of fall?
I was raised, I guess, religious Republican. They voted, and yeah, there wasn't a lot of political talk around the house. We were always told growing up to never go on welfare, and that was really about it. That was really about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when did it you know, when did it first occur to you that liberty was the way for you, that you know, liberty was the answer?
You know, I remember the first thing I watched from Ron Paul was one of his, I don't remember where he was speaking, but it was one of his speeches, and he was addressing the drug war and just talking about how it just put thousands, if not tens of thousands, of totally peaceful, innocent people in cages. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that's so barbaric. And he's talking about it in the open, and people are listening. This is important. And so the more I studied, the more I realized that it made me excited. Like learning about these things and taking the wool off from my eyes, so to speak, is just an exciting thing. It's all I think about all day long, almost. Like from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And I think about it because I love thinking about it. It's exciting.
There's a better way than what we're doing it now. I mean, it is. It's incredibly exciting. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So you're actually you're an anarcho-capitalist, right?
Indeed, yes.
Yes. So when was the first time you realized that you were that you slanted towards anarchy and kind of market solutions?
Mises University last summer. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get a sponsor send me to Mises University. And before that, I would have classified myself as a minarchist. If only because, actually it was because it was still during the campaign and I was making videos for Ron Paul, and you can't very well have an anarchist making like political campaign videos. And so I was just so dedicated to the campaign that I'm like, I'm not going to attach the A word to myself. That doesn't work. Not during a campaign. But then I went to Mises University last July, and it was just 7 solid days of perfectly constructed market solutions for defense and justice and security and education and infrastructure and roads. And I thought, my goodness, the path is laid, the way is clear. This is not only possible, but if with just a bit of waking up, it's probable. The free society is probable. And so that was when it started. So I kept the A word under wraps until after the election, and then I came out with it in December.
Yeah, actually, I remember that video, and I actually wondered when you put out the video if it actually happened prior to that, or if it was, because I mean, with these videos, it's hard to tell, exactly when, you can release them at any time and that
Right.
sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of wondered.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people right now in the liberty movement that tend to kind of shun a lot of folks that maybe don't go as far as wanting anarchy. Some of the folks that are that have some status views, but not really complete status views. And I know that a lot of folks like Jeffrey Tucker and I'm trying to think, Lawrence Reed and folks like that tend to kind of take those people and take the liberty aspects of them and accept them for the liberty aspects. But what are your views on that?
Well, this is a people sort of movement. The free society functioning on the market, it's all about people. It's all about trade and production and working with people. And so I don't see, and the only reason to ever alienate anybody is if they're being violent. And that is a natural market action to alienate the violent people. And so, sometimes people will say, oh, there shouldn't be, I'll post things on Facebook saying like, what's the difference between this and this? And let's talk about anarchy. Let's talk about libertarianism. Let's talk about capitalism. And I got a comment on Facebook the other night, and this guy was like, we shouldn't be infighting among ourselves because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I told him, I was like, talking about terms is not infighting. We're talking about ideas. We're testing our ideas back and forth against one another. We're refining them. And so when I talk to someone who still believes that the state is a good thing, and I'm talking terms with them and I'm wanting to get a discussion, it's not because I want to fight with them or alienate them. It's because our ideas are all that we have in this movement. It's all about ideas. And so the more we talk about it, the better off we are. And so I have no desire to alienate anybody.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I mean, I've seen some folks, along the lines here and there say, oh, well, that person's not, libertarian because they don't believe this. Well, it's hard for me to say that because I don't know. It is alienating, and I exactly what you said.
Yeah, it's a people movement, and I want everyone with me. I want everyone,
Absolutely.
And so if you can set the violence aside, and if you can have a conversation with me where we establish, where I can explain to you that I believe that the state is bad because it's based in violence. If you can hear me, then we can come to an understanding. And I want everyone around. The more the merrier, especially in the division of labor. The more people there are, developing whatever skills it is that they specialize in, the better off I am. So out of sheer selfishness, I want everyone around too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to a lot of people, you know, what we're talking about here is kind of scary, and what we're talking about here is kind of radical. I mean, a lot of people think of anarchy, and I think they think of the misdefinition of anarchy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, anarchy, the Greek root of the word just means without rulers. And so everything else you've ever heard and every dictionary misdefinition there has been that refers to chaos or lawlessness or any of that is completely false. And it's understandable, you know, that the word would be scary because it's been propagandized to be scary. It's been done that way on purpose. And I've actually given a lot of thought to using the term, right? Like, because there are other words. You have some people calling themselves voluntarists, you know, belief that all interactions should be voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
You have people calling themselves advocates of the free society, or even agorists, the Greek root of the word agora, meaning like marketplace. And there are all these words, but I was reading in a Murray Rothbard book the other day. It's called For a New Liberty. He's talking about how the early, or what we would now call classical liberals in Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries, they were going by the term liberal, right? And so the word liberal meant like freedom loving. And the statists took it over, and the liberals let them. They let them have that word. And now it means the opposite of what it used to mean. And so I'm not willing to let someone take the word anarchy and make it mean what it doesn't mean. I use that word, even though I know it sounds radical, because I know what it means. And I'm not going to let it be misdefined for the political agendas of people who would lie to you.
Words mean things, and frankly, that's actually one of my big things. If you ever watch any of our shows, down at the bottom, I always have a little line that says "liberal in the classical tradition," and in the classical tradition, you'll see it in little parentheses. I won't give up the word liberal. I am a liberal.
There you go.
So
Right
so
on.
I completely, I know what you mean, and I'm with you.
Right on.
So do you think that liberty will be realized in our lifetime?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because anything that is going to happen will come about because of human action. And there are so many human actors in the marketplace right now acting from a place of freedom. There are so many. I meet them every day. They message me on Facebook every day. I met so many of them at PorcFest. It was so exciting. And so with that many people acting from that place of freedom, yeah. And you know, and it's not that we haven't seen it yet. There are pockets of freedom all around. Like, I don't know if you've ever been up to New Hampshire, but like in Keene, New Hampshire, like they do what they want. You know, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, the cops don't mess with them because they know that it's useless at this point. You know, and then you have Lone Star Libertopia going on down in Austin, and I think it's called the Blue Ridge Liberty Project somewhere in North Carolina. And so there are pockets where people are gathering, where they are saying there's strength in numbers, and we are going to be agorist, we are going to practice on the black market, you know, we're not going to pay your taxes, we're going to open businesses and not license them, and come and get us. Come arrest all of us. You don't have enough room in your county jail, we promise. And so the liberty's there. And I'm considering making the move to one of the two places this fall.
Nice.
Yeah.
So with the knowledge that Edward Snowden brought us about the NSA and their spying, I think that a lot of Americans were really shocked about it. I think a lot of Americans were shocked to see that that you know, the government was actually spying on not just our Facebook, but our phone calls and that sort of thing. What was your reaction?
I thought to myself, people are surprised? People are surprised? What? I mean, I thought that there had been news about this kind of thing for years. Because I mean, you had the revelation of them spying on Associated Press months before the Snowden thing. And so one must think to oneself, okay, if they have the capability to, I mean, there's been open government wiretapping since Nixon and probably before that too. So there was no reason for anybody to think that this wasn't going on. And so, yeah, I mean, good for Snowden for making it, I guess, even more widely known. But yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. And by the way, hey, NSA, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, NSA. So, were you surprised to see what sides people chose on the issue? I mean, there were a lot of people that that I personally came out and shocked me that, some folks said, this is a bad thing, and I didn't expect these guys to say it was bad. Some of them said, yeah, this is really a good thing, and I didn't expect them to say it's good. I mean, did it surprise you to see who chose what side?
I don't actually see enough mainstream media to see anyone who had spoken out saying it was a bad thing that he had done that. And so actually that's news to me. If anyone actually, that's pretty cowardly for if anyone had actually, oh no, I did read that a few people said, oh, he broke contract. He's a criminal because he broke contract. Well, guess what? None of us who were spied on signed a contract to be spied upon. So there was no contract that he was breaking. You cannot rally people party to a contract if they don't sign it, which, as you probably know, is my feeling about the Constitution. And that's a topic for perhaps another day.
Well, and furthermore, actually, when you look at he also took a vow. Whether you agree with the vow or not, he did take one when he went into the military that said that he would protect the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. So, I mean, it could be argued from the statist point of view that he was also doing that. I mean, protecting the Constitution. But
well, the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, says that all of that was illegal. So really, he was upholding his oath in that way. He was revealing something that went in direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. So he did uphold the Constitution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So he's found some safe haven in some fairly...
the former Soviet Union, yes.
Some fairly, I would call them seedy areas, actually. The Soviet Union, I guess Ecuador was a stop on his in his list. Do you think that hurts his credibility at all?
No, it hurts the state's credibility that someone would have to flee for telling the truth. That's whose credibility it hurts. And actually, it makes Russia look better, makes Hong Kong look better, makes Ecuador look better, that they would offer refuge to someone who dares commit the treason of telling the truth.
Yeah, that is just so true. So with things like this that we see, pretty constantly, kind of it's really easy to look at the oppression that's out there, and with the things like that, the stories that you see out there about botched raids and NSA spying and that sort of thing, it has a tendency, I think, to get a lot of us down, it's had a tendency to get me down on occasion as well. Have you figured out a way to kind of keep your chin up through all that?
Yes, And it started with Jeffrey Tucker. It really did. To use the term that someone used to me the other day, he sees the world through market-colored glasses. And so I liken it to, I don't know if it's an old folk tale or fable, I don't know what it is, but it's that story where it's a kid asks his grandfather or whatever, or the story goes that there is like a wolf of evil and a wolf of good inside your mind. And a kid asks his grandfather, you know, how do I become good or how do I become evil when I have both forces going on inside me? What do I do? And the grandfather says, you feed the one you want to live. And so we have the option to see all of the evil, and we have the option to see all of the good, because they're both there, and they're both very real all day long. And we just have to feed the one we want to live. And it's too easy to get down if you don't. It's an effort.
Boy, there is so much wisdom in that. I mean, it's really easy to concentrate on the bad stuff and feed the one that you don't want to live. And you know, that's such an easy thing to do. I really like that. I really like that story.
Me too.
So, and you know, I've got to tell you, there was a group that popped up a while ago online that I think it was called Libertarian Optimist or something of that order, or the Optimist Libertarian or something like that. And I think it actually popped up because of something that Jeffrey Tucker said. But you know, every time I've seen the man, that is so him. He is like Mr. Optimist when it comes to liberty, and I can see where he would have been kind of the guy that helped you you know, see the way in that regard.
That was actually how I ended up, how he interviewed me when I was in New Zealand. I was actually feeling pretty down in New Zealand in a lot of ways. And someone sent me a copy of his book, A Beautiful Anarchy. And then I also stumbled upon Bourbon for Breakfast. And I started reading them, and I just felt like my soul just lifting. I really just felt better. And so I found him on Facebook, and I was like, hey, Mr. Tucker, I just wanted to let you know that I'm reading your books, and thank you so much. And he said, who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? And I told him who I was and that I was in New Zealand, and he said, that's fascinating. I would love to interview you. And that's how it started. And now I have the great fortune of communicating with him back and forth as friends, and he's invited me to be on his Bitcoin panel next week at Freedom Fest down in Las Vegas. So we'll be meeting up next week. That
is amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I saw that interview. It was very good.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was neat. So
he let me interview him as well on my website, which was really fun.
And I saw that one as well. It's really awesome. And everyone, by the way, who's watching this should go out to AmandaBillyRock.com right now. Well, okay, after this is done, and watch that interview, because it really is a neat interview. It's really amazing. So actually, you know, on the optimism front, I mean, markets always cause optimism, I think, with me, with libertarians in general, I think. So I'm just kind of curious, what's your favorite innovation? What innovation kind of encourages you?
3D printers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 3D printers. And also, I don't know the name of the device, but I have a friend who is a doctor, and she was talking to me about how there is this project, I think it just had a Kickstarter or whatever, that's being developed in California, that is like a medical device, and you just like set it to your temple or whatever, and it reads a ton of health stats about you that usually you would have to go to the doctor's office to get. And so what we were talking about
It's
is
like Star
now
Trek.
that, yeah, right?
Quarter.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Um, we were talking about now that the government, through Obamacare, but everything before that as well, is now really going to make healthcare unaffordable and freaking crappy, that it's gonna go to where it should go, where it belongs. It's gonna go onto the market, the black market, as some might call it. And so we're going to be going to doctors' houses under the table. Doctors are going to be coming to our houses under the table, and that's how it's going to happen. And so it's devices like that that are going to make it better.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious. I'm sort of curious about your travels. You obviously you went to New Zealand, and I believe you said you went to Chile. Well, okay, for you, Chile, um, and traveled around a little bit. So I'm just kind of curious. Of the places that you went, were there any that kind of felt more that you kind of felt more liberty in?
Mm, I didn't, because I didn't have time to mention in my talk, that I also went to Singapore, which was super exciting. I would say that the freedom factor in each place was simply different. In Singapore, obviously, there's a ton of business freedom. They want you to come there and start a business, right? And so just the feeling that you are encouraged to buy and sell was a feeling that kind of permeated the air there. But then on the other side, they also put people caught with with hard drugs or whatever. They put them to death. So you have the full spectrum there in Singapore, and then down in Chile, it felt maybe a little more laid back and relaxed. But then there were times when I would go out into the streets and they would have like these weird police trucks and like police motorcycles all around, and like the police trucks had like little cages in the back of them or whatever. I mean, obviously we have those all over the States too.
Yeah.
But, just as far as the freedom factor, it just seemed like there were trade-offs in all places. In the UK, rather, England. I don't like calling things by their federated names, as I've said before. In England, I was really only there for about a week. It was hard to say, but yeah, the cameras in the streets were unsettling. But then again, they have those here too. And then in New Zealand, it's pretty tax heavy there, which is obviously, one of the biggest enemies of freedom. But the atmosphere was also, it felt more peaceful. Like their cops don't carry guns, and I felt safe everywhere I went. There wasn't that atmosphere of intimidation that you get from cops here. Cops there were more just like, doing our jobs, I don't know, shuffling traffic in road construction or whatever, like do. But yeah, that would be my general overview of those 4 places.
Well, you were actually planning on staying over in New Zealand, right?
I was, yeah, and then a family issue came about that beckoned me on back, and that has become an ongoing thing, and so I am here to stay.
Well, that's good for us. That's very good for us. I'm a little sad for you because, I mean, obviously you're coming back to this, but it's definitely good for us. Do you think you'll ever go back there?
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to do this fall.
Well, that's a fun place to be, actually. Do whatever is at the moment. That's kind of a cool thing.
That is the way I live my life, for sure.
So, when you returned, I don't know. I kind of noticed that you almost seem to be a little bit more, I don't know, a little more reinvigorated, or I don't know, re-energized, I guess. Am I imagining this, or is was that
No,
the case? Or
that's the thing. Well, when I went abroad, I wanted to go live the life of a normal person, right? Like someone who doesn't have to like be a freedom fighter, because who doesn't who wants to have to fight an adversary every day?
yeah,
Wouldn't we rather swing on hammocks and drink lemonade? Wouldn't that be more ideal? So when I went abroad, I wanted to go be normal, not live the life of a freedom fighter. And then so when I had to come back, I thought, if I'm going to be in the USSA, I'm going to step up my game big time, or else I just won't feel right. And so that was that. That was when I decided to start my website and start churning out content. I've recently started writing. I had never published before. I've published 2 articles now, and they've gotten some good response, which is super exciting. And so, yeah, so now not only am I going to be releasing videos 3 times a week on my website, around 2 times a week on YouTube, now I'm also going to be writing.
that's incredible. That's awesome. And
Thanks.
I'm so happy to see you reinvigorated like this, because the movement needs more people like you. I mean, there was a time that I was kind of very down, and actually, I'll be honest here. You kind of brought me up, because the amount of passion that you have for liberty, you just don't see that often, and it's really contagious.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me that.
So, in your wildest dreams, if you could just name, exactly what it was in your wildest dreams, what would this liberty movement bring?
Private property, real private property, where you make your own laws, private law, because that way the competition in the market is what will bring the most freedom, because people will choose the property which treats them the best. And see, I used to think that was like a global thing, like we would choose the country that we wanted to live in most, and that was, a reasonable moral thing. But then I finally realized that the argument that states don't own property. They don't. There can't be collective ownership that was funded through taxation, funds not voluntarily given. If there's not a voluntary trade, then someone doesn't own something. So what I would like to see is real private property, which will cause competition among people wanting to travel, and the freest land will get the most people.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So there is one aspect to this. Ongoing liberty, at least I think, requires continual education. What would that look like? I mean, how do you envision that?
Well, I'm super psyched to see this unschool and homeschooling movement going. I met my first, no, maybe 2. I've met 2 unschooled kids now. One was 18 and one was 8. They were some of the most delightful, curious, intelligent people I've ever met. And so I think that education starts at home, for sure, because that's where you learn how to think. And it's really hard, when somebody reaches, I guess, your neurons begin to fire less rapidly, mid-20s or whatever. And so when somebody reaches that age not knowing how to think, that's an uphill battle to climb. Not that it can't be climbed, of course it can. The brain is plastic, but it's harder. And so I think that the failure of public schools is a wonderful thing because it's showing people that entrusting your children to the state is ridiculous. And so, aside from education starting at home, I also think that things like MIT putting their full curriculum online for free, and Khan Academy is all free, and Mises.org is all free. I mean, with the internet, we can teach ourselves for free.
That is so true. I mean, there are so many resources online. Yeah, that is so true. So
And then my website offers some free education as well.
yeah, which actually, let's discuss that. I was so pleased and amazed to see that you have a video series on Hazlitt. How cool!
Thank you.
That's amazing. I mean, so what's it take to do that? I mean,
Well, I a lot of the classic Austrian texts for me are difficult kind of to get through. It's very academic language. They were written, I mean, Hazlitt's book was written in the 40s, and people spoke differently and wrote differently then from the way we do now. And so I thought, I wonder if this could be made easier to understand. And I know that a lot of young people today are online watching videos more than they are reading. Whether that's a good or a bad thing or just neutral, just an evolution in education, I don't know. But I thought that it would be nice if a classic text like that could be made fast and fun, hopefully, and simple and short. And so I had seen some of those videos on YouTube where people are drawing things and speeding them up, and I thought that's so great because then I can depict anything I want. Anything, if I want to show a mountain range, I don't have to go outside and film a mountain range. I can just draw one, so it makes my possibilities completely limitless. And so I prop up my camera above a little marker board, and I have the book open, and I go through it paragraph by paragraph, and I illustrate what I'm reading. And then after that, I record a voiceover, and then I cut the two together and speed it all up by like 8 times. And then I get a 2 to 3 minute cartoon for each chapter.
yeah, it really makes it, I think, very available. I'm really, yeah, it makes it a little bit easier to grasp, I think, for a lot of folks that may not necessarily want to read the book for whatever reason. Yeah, it's I've watched them all, by the way. They're very awesome. And by the way, once again, once you're done watching this video, everybody should go out to AmandaBillyRock.com and watch those videos as well. They're awesome. So what else can you find on the site?
In addition to the cartoons, I make and the articles, I make 2 other kinds of videos. One is entitled Freedom Philosophy, and that is me talking about what gets me fired up every week. Like today's Freedom Philosophy was about how a state apparatus is required to commit really large-scale crimes. Last week's was about how the reputation and the ranking system of buyers and sellers on eBay is like the complete replacement of like the court system. Like eBay settles disputes for free within like an hour, and people are motivated to be good sellers and buyers because once your score drops, you're done. You're really done. And so it's about how the online community of reputation building acts as a police force, if you will, to keep people honest. And so those are my freedom philosophy videos. And then I also have interviews with freedom fighters, as I like to call them, and that's what my Jeffrey Tucker interview is, a freedom fighter interview. And that's me calling up my favorite people and interviewing them on Skype and talking about what they're doing in the movement.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm just curious. Has this? Are you to the point yet to where you can actually make a living off of the site and off of Liberty? Because I mean, I really think it would be a sin if you weren't, because with this much enthusiasm, with this much I don't know, with this much passion, you really need to.
Well, I do take donations on my site, and I have had donations since I began. They're not to the point that I can make a living off it yet, but I do plan to make my living off spreading liberty. And so I am going to keep my day job, as they say, in the interim while I'm building my site, while I'm building my reputation. I spoke at PorcFest. I've been asked to speak in North Carolina this fall. I'm speaking in Las Vegas next week. And so as I do these things to build my reputation and my brand, I have every intention of being able to live from spreading liberty, absolutely.
So you mentioned that people can donate and that you've had some donations. So how can they do that? I mean, you take Bitcoin, obviously. What?
I take everything. Yeah,
okay.
You can just go on my website. There's a donate tab. There's a credit card form right on the site. It's a secure form. I take Bitcoin and Litecoin, and then I also take PayPal, either one time or monthly. So whatever you choose is what I have.
Well, that's easy. You could just go out and pick whatever, and that works. Yeah, that's awesome. And everyone should, by the way. Once again, as a kind of final wrap here, can you let everybody know how to get out to your site?
Sure. So I'm AmandaBillyRock.com. My last name's kind of funny. It's just the words Billy, like B-I-L-L-Y, and rock, just pushed together. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the strange land of Twitter, it's at @BillyRock. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook. I'm unfortunately maxed out on my friends, but if you friend me, then it will make you follow me, so then you can still see all my posts, and you should be able to, on Facebook, I guess you can comment on the posts of someone if you share mutual friends. So yeah, I wish anyone could comment on my stuff. I've looked for the option, but Facebook is kind of annoying like that. They cap your friends, they won't let everyone comment, it's annoying. And then last but not least, I have, of course, my fan page of AmandaBillyRock.com on Facebook, and so come to there as well.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking some time out tonight and talking to me, and as I've said multiple times, I really appreciate your passion for liberty, and yeah, everybody go out and go to AmandaBillyRock.com. Wonderful site, incredible person, and it's you're going to learn something. I guarantee it. So,
thank you, Paul.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in tonight, and we will see you again soon. Not exactly sure when. The summer stuff is kind of a little crazy. I planned a few interviews for the summer. This was my first one, and of course the one that I was kind of most anticipating. So in any case, thanks a bunch, and we will talk to you later.